not going to edit this, so please bear with me. The other thing I want to make is clear is that I'm going to do a lot of responses to questions and some photographs and images attached to the lower part of the down in the body of the text messages here, or whatever we do, or responses, because Google doesn't allow you to edit the video. So any mistakes I make, I have to do the corrections down below in the comments. There's no more editing the live videos, which they used to allow. All right, the NTSB released a preliminary report, highway collapse of pedestrian, bridge under construction, Miami, Florida. Here we go. Executive summary. The information in this report is preliminary and will be supplemented or corrected during the course of the investigation, and will be supplemented or corrected during the course of the investigation. Let's immediately, before I get to that little bit of body, jump to where they're saying, they bring up a point of photos 1, 2, 3, and they're pointing here. I don't know if you guys know. Let's already discredit this silly report. They're pointing here. Now, how much effort does it take to point this arrow here? Well, it would take the effort to know how to correlate the images to a sketch. So whoever did this report, put it together, and whoever did this and the photos, they obviously don't have the skill set to match this up. So we're back to these airplane people making bridge diagrams that are just wrong. This shows again that this is just, NTSB is not going to be worth the paper it's printed on. It's terrible. This crack, I have a few videos talking about crack analysis. I'd hate to say it, but it appears the NTSB is really leaning towards this crack as a failure. This shows, to me, that this crack shows movement. It does not really show the failure. If I put this under compression, this number 11, the deck, the load path, and this load path, even the bottom, as you know, I point out. For you to say it cracked because of the compression of the bottom half of this, not the top, let's call it, is implying that this load was able to find a weak point here as it compressed. It can't compress that much. This gap is much larger than the expansive ability of that column compressions and in a compression format. All right, so we do see, if we look at this crack, that apparently that the bottom or the top, that there's some shearing going on. And so we can say something like that, you know, that, see the shadow mark, that one passed the other. Okay, so which I find interesting, this is cast all at one time, I believe, all of this. That's assuming it was cast all at one time, that it wasn't, because we have this product over this that we can't see it. They're going to have to grind this apart, this surface off, and determine that. Well, it'd be nice to determine it. We see this finishing going on here for you guys, that this was, you know, some odd finishing going on, and over here in the left image also. And so I'm doing part crack analysis. I have to hurry up also because I've got to hit the job site. So we've got these longitudinal cracks along the member, and that could be indicators of their reinforcement inside there under compression, buckling, as I showed in my other video of my other channel, mirroring itself through. It could be the dead weight causing it, the buckling also of the reinforcement showing its way through. Let's go to the other side. So this would be, I believe, number 11 and the bottom of it, and that would be here, the underside, and it goes this direction. As you compress this, the compressive forces are in that direction. You would, if you were trying to, let's say Denny, PATE, and them were trying to not detension, but to tension this column to address cracking, which I said in one of my other videos that I think they were addressing cracking at the time of the failure. If they were addressing the cracking, well, his audio where he says he's going to address them later, or implies he's going to address them later with the FDOT, appears to be a fabric, gosh, I don't want to get slander myself, a fabric, yeah, that it's not a full truth. It's not forthcoming, because I think they were addressing the cracks at that point, and possibly this crack. Now, jumping onto the bridge inspection while they were moving it, we know now that these cracks appeared when they had it on the uprights on the side of the road. So then we have the engineer that was supposed to monitor the bridge during movement. If you can find his tweet or their page, they clearly say that there was no, it was uneventful. So that engineer is also being devious, because they're not saying that the existing cracks did not open up anymore, or maybe they did open up more when they put it in place. Because remember in my previous video that they were supposed to have supports in here during transportation. I think that the engineer of record and Denny PATE probably said, let's go ahead and post-tension these more during transportation to counteract that this is no longer inside, that the supports aren't in there. Now I also think that wasn't showing in, I think it wasn't showing in the 2016 plans, which I can't find the full plans anymore in all my files. I don't think it was showing there. And so it was clearly intent in 2017. So who released that? Who was holding back that information when we clearly were only allowed to find the FIU plans online of the 2016 with the stamp of the 2016 on it, and the rest of the plans not being fully stamped? I mean, this is, so you're not lying to the public, but you're deceiving them. You're purposely sending them down the wrong frenzied angle, because we all now did analysis on the 2016 until the 2017 showed up. And I think that was done with some nefarious reasons. So I think possibly, this is my, when I say I think, this is all my opinion. I'm not slandering anybody. These are all my opinions. So I think the location of these members, as you know, is wrong. We have different locations of the post-tensional members. One's high and one's low. Again, creasing this one first and working onto this one last. And I'm sorry for talking fast because I gotta go. That once you did this, you created a load underneath the underside of this, a stress that could easily cause a buckling or cracking, even causing possibly cracking down the bottom of number 11 once you start it. So I'm going to show you how we could get this crack. You created a force here, tension, post-tension in the top part. Here's roughly in line where the post-tensioning is. And then when you did that, they could have opened up the bottom, flexing this, creating a torque. Oddly, it would be the worst place you could, I would imagine a torque would be. I would think it would be here. Deflection would have been more in the middle of this span of the post-tension rod. I can't see it here. So maybe this is just a conflict of rebar inside here that once it was post-tension or once it was cured, or it could be a very shallow piece of concrete across underneath the underside of this, half an inch from the surface. Something as non-nefarious, if you will, as that. Something, nothing to cry about. Now, if you remove that, what happens when you remove it? And I'll get to the report. Bear with me. Sorry, my screen jumped. If you remove this section altogether, this is, hand size is like 7 inches. I'm sorry, it's 8.5. It's right about there. It's right at the crack there, but it's in line with our post-tensioning. They should have used gamma testing as per the 2016 FIU plans, that all the testing would be done. The cracks would be addressed, not done while let's jump on the cracks. So if this bridge had cracks and it was a typical bridge put in place, FDOT should show up. Once they find it, they should say, "Oh, we got we got movement. Cracks are movement." So ideally, and now we got hindsight, but ideally, they should say, "Oops, this might be something structural. I need a structural engineer guys to take a look at this. Until then, let's just close the bridge off." So they would close the bridge off and address these cracks. But they knew about these cracks beforehand, as we saw in the letters where the BPA said, "Let's address these cracks." But in the same token, he says, "I think it's just reinforcement that's causing the conflict." I think that's what his general words were, and we should just monitor it. Well, that's unfair. You should actually resolve why it's there. Why do these cracks here? Do we have the middle deck flexing down? If the middle decks were to flex down, the top and bottom flex, you could create a movement here, but you would also want to see the same down here. But nevertheless, they're different angles, so I just can't say that just arbitrarily. Also note that, remember, there are different cracks inside here and here, here and here. This would be a crack. The cracks I would, after they moved it, after they moved the structure, and say they detension like the guy said at MCM, and maybe more cracks appeared at that point, and then maybe they instead said, then let's go ahead and, well, they had a meeting, right? So then they had a meeting, and maybe all the engineers that were there and non-engineers, I don't know, that they were there, and they said, let's go ahead and try something here. Let's close up the, let's try some post-tensioning here. And let's add back forces, in other words. I know we detension. Now let's go back and add it again. Because we just don't have it in the plans that they should be detensioning or tensioning this in the steps. It clearly says that once the main span is complete, then this will be detensioned. That's why I tell you again, it was like a shearing wall. It doesn't say we'll detension after we move it into position. So I'm saying that because they didn't add the structure in here, the supports, that possibly Denny PATE, being the engineer of this bridge, or maybe it's the BPA, not BPA, they're the inspecting, right? The transportation company or the SMPT company said, let's resolve this. Let's go ahead and increase, since you've got these in here in the 2017, let's go ahead and increase the post-tensioning rods forces to counteract any cantilever forces, perhaps. Or maybe they had the cracks, they were trying to address it when it was in the yard, still on the side of the property, that all these cracks are present, specifically these cracks going across here. They would really close up, if you will, if you were to post-tension these rods. If you look at the bridge images, I know I'm going right on without, so fast, but if you look at the bridge images I showed in other videos, underside, you see this white coating they put on the underside of the canopy even, which is in odd places. You can't accidentally get coating up there to that degree on the underside of the canopy, which is what, this distance from here to here, I forget what it is. Canopy's 8 foot wide. I forget this height, 16 feet. Yeah, so it's not an accident. But so I'm thinking you got to look at that. Why is it covered up? And then we have this, back to this again, we've got the NTSB that are just failing with this image showing that they're just, this thing doesn't have an airplane engine on it, so they can't even point to the proper location. This is a preliminary report that they can't even review properly. Or are they trying to send us on a purposely wrong location? Nevertheless, if this is an indicator of their reports, then we're going to be in bad shape when they finally come up with the final report, because they can't even point and reference their own diagrams. Photo 1, 2, and 3. Photo 1, 2, and 3. This is just ridiculous. That's sky, S-K-Y, right behind us. Those appear to be trees. That's sky. You can't get sky if you were looking at this. This configuration doesn't exist. This is chamfer. Maybe there's a chamfer on this, but this is this coming down right in here and back up. And this is the column. This is the guy's hand. The other side of the bridge, as I put in another video, the other side of the column. So that's the NTSB joke clowns again. I didn't want to say that. All right, it is a joke. Now in this image, they also put online, they decided to redact this. It had some other details, and if you go to my other videos, you can actually read this. Now they all of a sudden the elevation. So this is not without redaction, sneakily redaction here. So what else did they redact in this image? So let's go in there. So what I drove at here is that possibly they were, while I was still on the side, they post-tensioned this excessively. Then they moved the bridge, then they detensioned it, crack showed up, and then maybe they said, let's go ahead and tension it back again. Doing so, they finished this section down here, which I show before, that these are equally spaced, so there'll be no, there's no cracking down here because it's not close to the surface either. Different angle also. And this is close to the surface, and being close to the surface up here, this creates even more force down here. It's equivalent of, not equivalent at all. It puts a bottom force down here that could open up even more cracking. Perhaps during that time they said, let's close this up. As I said in previous videos, a 2-hour discussion on cracks means these are serious cracks, which means they should have supported this structure, temporarily closed off the bridge, or not supported it, just closed off this road, because it's negligence when you're dealing with this. They did the same bridge. They did this down in the bridge is just South Carolina, I think it is, Charleston. I might have got that location wrong. That was a FIG bridge, as I understand it, MCM. And if you remember, as one of my nice followers said, and donation guy, thank you, he commented that, hey, remember you mentioned that app that would work that if you're going across a Fig bridge now, a Fig build, a MCM build now, be wary. Would you like to go around? He said that, and I was like, oh, I forgot I said that. So that's also that app still needs to be made. Again, that's some money for some app developer. Make it, man. I'm going to buy it. You see all these people that are going to buy it. And then you could just expand on that. You can make all the bridges app related. So now let's talk about that bridge, and I'll jump back to this. That bridge, because I had to dive in that for people. I guess I shouldn't. I will not. I will not talk about that bridge on this because it would be a conflict of statements, I think. I don't want to bring two things up. So let's jump to this report. And remember, I'll do all my corrections down below in photographs and screenshots and things like that, and link it back to IMG, an imaging source that you guys could link to also. Please don't, if you're going to send me links, I'm going to read them, but I probably won't let you, I'll probably delete them because it goes out of my, some of the links, the loose focus of the conversation. I know there's other bridges that are prettier, and you guys send me designs of these bridges and all. I get that. I'll look at them, I do, but I don't post them there because it's losing focus, just like I was just about to do with talking about another bridge. Okay. On Thursday, March 15, 2018, about 1:47 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 1:47 p.m. That's very important, this timeline. A partial constructed pedestrian bridge, now it's partially constructed. This means it should not. It wasn't self-supported. This pedestrian bridge is one section of the other section going across here. So they're making it clear this is partially. Now FIU, say if FIU was in that meeting, FIU has a little skin in the game. This crack shows up. FIU has, this is very important, FIU has to report to the federal government about this loan and issues and problems. Now the last thing they want to report, in my opinion, is that, hey look, we found these cracks in this design, which we approve, which you're a structural engineering school, quote, structural engineering school, end quote, that we must have missed it in the design, but this thing is cracking where we don't predict it to crack, and they're unknowns. And so we closed off the road. We had FDOT closed off the road, so we closed off a highway, and I don't know if it's a federally funded highway. So we closed off, let's just go down that line, make it more dramatic. We closed off a federally funded highway, indefinitely until we figure out what we're going to do with these cracks. We fear that if we, this is how to report, we fear that if we try to put the SPMTs under, lift the bridge back up and put it back to the side, which would be very responsible, to put it on back onto the temporary side structure on the side of the road, which we just moved approximately 5 days prior. We feel that would be the best place for this bridge, best served, and we will re-support it over there and work out this crack issue with gamma testing, with all types of engineering, or possibly dismantling sections of the bridge, temporarily supporting sections of the bridge. We feel that that's the best interest of the public. That might get the response from the federal government saying, wait a minute, your report also states, which they should, that you did not follow the FDOT. This would be FDOT at this point. FDOT reports that you did not put the temporary structures during transportation into play, that you did a different load path, that you used the post-tensioning in numbers 2 and 11. Say they had a real engineer over there in the federal department, and I don't know if they would even bother, because remember, this is grant money. They don't want to, nobody wants to look like they threw bad money out there and it became a disaster. The bridge to nowhere. This is the bridge not to nowhere, but this is the bridge to kill people. So that, you can see where that documentation of that just sounds like it would just backfire on FIU, documented people for finance and Freedom of Information Act, possibly, and it would just be used against them forever. They could never brag about being the great builder of this bridge that's so revolutionary, which they bragged about in the 2016 release on their page. I know my statement is kind of it's a big statement or a big attack, and yes, this is a big attack. This might be my coup d'état. Well, I can't even fix that now because it's in the video, so you guys control my screwing up of that. All right, how I just said that. But what's so cool is you guys will write it, and you won't be able to verbally correct me. So I actually know how to say it now in my brain. I screw up. I also screw up with the word ambulance. I also screw up sometimes with alligator if I don't calm down and say it. So This is my final stab at this bridge at this point, because the data's come to an end. NTSB released their thing, and now this is my counter. And this is what I now is saying total negligence, calling it for how I see it. So now we have the okay. So now we have all of this, all these to cover up this blue. Did they, how far, since they knew that they were transporting this bridge without the supports in it, did they also, how much do they know about this jackhammering the node? How much do they know about it? Are they going to release it? We did not know about the jackhammering of the node until I put that video out. Well, I don't know when you guys found out, but the jackhammer was very present. Did NTSB, does the NTSB and all, but let's look at who's also investigating this. So as we look at who's investigating, we got the Federal Highway Administration. What's the question about the jackhammer? Because they're just talking about number 11, but they're not talking about accessing. And I fear that they're going to just blame this number 11. This is what they're feeling out in the public right now, to see if we're just going to accept that this crack is a total failure of the entire structure. We've got other things going on there. We've got other companies that are negligent, I think, which is VSL, the post-tensioning company. We've got MCM, the builder. We've got BPA that did the inspections that they're being soft on. We've got FIU not making the proper reports and acting like the real authority and having a conflict of interest. They don't want to shut down a bridge that they brag so much about in the public, and it's pretty much their sweetheart of a new design the whole world's going to take on, and they're going to be the ones making $1 trillion from engineers and et cetera, or making engineers now. And then we have FDOT, who also is holding back by allowing all this craziness to continue, especially since they represent the pass-through money and the reporting company also to the FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration. So then we got Turner Fairbank Highway Research Center. They're helping. Those are the ones that are going to help with the post-tensioning rods, things like that are going to, I believe, that are going to see how much the rod was elongated. Remember, if they elongated this rod by putting extra post-tensioning on it, and then they detensioned it, you elongated the rod. As long as it's in a plastic mode, it can go back. But it had to determine if it was still plastic or not, or not. And here we go. So if they elongate, then they release it, and then they go back to elongate again. That rod it just went over the same section twice, and that's what I find interesting. These post-tension rods, yes, they have ability to come back to come back to where they were, but does this rod, test this rod specifically, not this rod specifically, this same design, the same lot, and they should have a lot of this LOTT, a lot number for this. Sometimes I have fun with people because I learned from a scientist that he was great. He taught me how to do a few things. One was curse for effect, and one was to actually misspell for effect. And that is, he taught me that people are going to remember some mistakes, and you use this, and so now you know why I use some of my mistakes. Use this for your example, for actually directing people to what you want them to remember. And it works. So sometimes you stumble on purpose at a certain location, so people will remember that one stumble. And he told me that cursing can do the same thing. If you curse about one specific item, not if you curse all the time. It's got to be one thing, and then it can be addressing it again. And then you need some shock effect, and sometimes the shock effect is LOTT, the lot. So you're going to remember that this has a lot, and this lot is just a sample. A sample should maintain per the rules for how you do post-tensioning. You need to keep a sample of your product, test it, and of the cabling and of the post-tension bar. So this company can then use a sample of a known with a known jack, and they can test it and see the elongation. Can you elongate to the point that they did it? And then can you detension it? And then can you elongate it again? And what's the effect of that? Once you elongate it, you say, yes, you can do it. Then take it to failure and see what's the next step of failure after you've done it through, say, those 3 processes. Or maybe they made 4. Maybe they elongated and put it back and elongated and put it back. Maybe they did it 6 times. That won't be in reports because you don't report that. Frankly, as a contractor, you're not going to report all your screw-ups. You're going to say it looks good, and you're going to try to justify your screw-ups, which we see MCM did. You really are, because we have our amygdala. We're going to fight back and say why our screw-ups are really sound thinking. For example, me saying why I screwed up with my knife to the bull. I did it on purpose, a knife to the bull. You guys can use whatever you want with that. I'm doing it on purpose. Remember my tricks I use. Occupational Health and Safety Administration. So we got OSHA there. Interesting, OSHA's there. If OSHA's there, they have they jump ahead of the line a little bit, and they can now start finding people and everything else. They don't have to play ball. They're a different agency than OIG, than FDOT, than they don't answer to the state and all these agencies. They can actually have a report that will, I'd like to see the preliminary report of OSHA. I wonder what they say already. I've had a couple of friends die, and OSHA's pretty fast with their reports. So I'd like to see what their report says. But remember, you can't use OSHA report in a court of law, as I understand it. So, OSHA can get it wrong. It doesn't matter. You can't. There's nothing really to do there. And what are they going to say? OSHA's going to talk about the dead people because someone died. They're not going to. I don't know if they have to sign an agreement with NTSB to play ball with them, because it appears assisting the NTSB investigation of the following parties. NTSB, as we know with the Elon Musk thing, is that they make you sign a non-disclosure. And now, interesting, if you want to protect yourself from the public, that non-disclosure can work in your favor. For example, as you follow my mouse, you would want, in your interest, so you don't have to talk to the public, you'd want to sign that non-disclosure so you can say, look, I can't tell you. The federal government says I signed a non-disclosure with them, or whatever the agreement is about. Well, as you can see, Elon Musk, and I'm still dealing with this bridge, he signed it, but then he said, wait a minute, this is not in the best interest of the company, what you're doing here, the path they took, as I understand it. So he made outward comments, and NTSB, as I understand, and per their statements publicly at one point said, and I say at one point because they can retract, they said, we got rid of them. Whereas Elon Musk, as I understand it, they're saying they walked. And I don't, it's still the same end result. Elon Musk is no longer party to the NTSB's do not communicate clause. So they sure enough can give a lot more than that one piece of data. They're now free because they're no longer a participating party. Let's talk about that. NTSB, as I understand it, also you cannot use their findings in a criminal investigation. You have to go about it a different way, as I understand it, to come up with the same answer if you're going to go to court. That's how I understand it. All right. So we got OSHA here. We got the Department of Transportation Office of the Inspector General. This is awesome. I think this is the one that the senators or whatever are starting their own investigation. OIG, they can find supposedly more biased, less biased findings. They're more neutral. And why do I say that? Well, because they came out against, I shouldn't get too political, with the Donald Trump thing where they said that the guy that just made, they said they'd fire him. They offered that he should be fired, and I think maybe prosecuted, and they did get rid of him, 2 days before his retirement. So they were non-biased, if you ask me, which is awesome, because that's awesome. That proved they were non-biased in this whole political spectrum, in my opinion. All right, don't want to troll you guys on that if that offends you. All right, Florida Transportation, please don't let it do it. Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, total conflict. That's the hen house. They were supposed to already report to the highway, to the FHWA, the granting authority, etc. At least they said they're the pass-through. But they also have to represent their own state, all right? They represent that highway. And with that said, they should have, if they were at that meeting with the cracks, they should have said, look, I don't care what's going on here about you wanting to post tension or whatever. They were post-tensioning. I swear they were fixing cracks there. And I said that in previous videos, I don't know, a month ago. So FDOT should have said, if you're going to address those cracks, I need to treat this as South Carolina is treating that bridge right now. I need to treat this as a condition that can collapse at any minute. I'm shutting down the bridge. I'm shutting down the roadway until this is addressed. And I think that's what it should be. But it appears that all my, not slanderous, my opinion, I think all this money handing over from MCM to local old boys to FIU being part of their the alumni situation and all this too connected, too, we don't want it. We know what's going to happen if we shut down the road. It's going to give us bad publicity and everything else. We dropped the ball of the century, if you will. And I think that, I don't know if we're ever going to find notes of that, minutes, as someone asked me. I don't think we're going to find minutes of that. I think that's going to be, I'm never going to speak of that, where no one's going to speak of that. Because if we speak of it, we just incriminate ourselves in a criminal trial. So this is not going to be mentioned, all that private conversation. With that said, some people have written me saying, people are watching the video, so I know I hate to throw you under the bus, but this video is about public, and so personally to you, no disrespect to you guys. I guess what needed to be offered here is immunity. They need to offer immunity, and I'm going to end this video within the next few moments and give you guys the link to this. Maybe I'll comment on a couple more things. All right, let's come back to that. Let's finish this, and let me write down on the side, I'm writing the word immunity. Remember, I'm not editing this. Okay, so I can get back to immunity. City of Seawater, I don't know how much they have sweat in the game. I have a little conflict that little people, and I said in another video, we lose land. This part of this granting was they needed matching funds. Seawater gave right of way, but they gave right of way, not the land, which is what? You gave right of way. You greedy. It's crazy. They take our land and we just don't give them right of way. When they take our land, they say we want right of way, and we're taking that land to have that right of way when they want to expand. So they want to expand, and they just gave right of way only, and they gave it like a $2 million price tag, something crazy to give right of way, where you and I would get crumbs for the same amount of footage. It's just ridiculous. All right, Miami-Dade Police Department, which is a non-starter because we already have, they turn their information over to the state prosecutor, who's already said that she's got a conflict years ago with the law department of FIU, because she came from there, as I understand. But now with this, she no longer has a conflict, and she says, her statement, as I understand it, so no slander again, this is how I recall it. And she says, oh, well, we don't think we're going to be able to find any negligence. What the heck? If you can't find negligence, which is very small to prove, that's just craziness. That's like saying drunk drivers aren't negligence. My opinion. Okay? So, Florida International University, FIU, clearly, they're the code enforcement authority. And I don't know can you find negligence against FIU? Is that illegal? Does the state of Florida have? Somebody brought that to my attention. That the state of Florida might have it so you can't find negligence against the state of Florida, FDOT, or an FIU state / quasi-federal money funded thing, that they're exempt, and to the point where you can only get, as I understand, somebody, and I didn't research it, you guys can do that, 100 grand. So basically you can find them at fault somehow, and they hand over 100 grand, no matter what the penalty, or 10 grand, or maybe it's no money. All right, Fig Bridge Engineers, well, clearly that's DENNY PATE, which is Fig, and also Linda Fig. You can't absolve her of her company. All right, you can't absolve MCM of their company and everybody connected to the bridge. You can't. So, but they were so happily, I'm sure, to sign this to give them. We can't talk. Structural Technologies is a patented company. So let's see if I can do this real quickly. And about us, VSL. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I don't know if I can put that back in. Okay, so here's VSL right here. This is what they're about. There are 3 companies. They do this. These members here, they're the ones that post tensioning at the time of failure. They patent they license their product. So who was the VSL? Who, it says, so that's their product. Who is the post-tensioning company, I wonder then? That contractor, it said VSL on it. I'm very confused here. They patent their product. Are they the actual applicator? Who are the workers that died? Are they a subcontractor, or are they a contractor, a made-up contracting company by Fig Bridge, MCM, that then got the license from VSL to use their product? Just wondering. Or are they VSL also have another post-tensioning literally coming out to do the work, physical hands-on, 5 people, 4 people, 6 people, whatever it may be. But one of them died. And then we got Barnett Crane and Rigging. They're the people that move I think the Barnett Crane, they move the transporter. They're the transportation company. As I understand it, but this is only shall, and should. This is just junk on FDOT, as I did in another video, that they shall be involved, they should be involved in the building and design of the bridge. So they could say, hey, look, we're going to put load points here, and we're going to put it here. This is going to create stresses down here for you on the cantilever. Well, how are you going to resolve it? Let's resolve it with adding more steel going across on the underside, giving some supports and bridging, and they'll give more to support it from the underside. You know, they should have been involved more, I think. It just seems haphazard. It seems like they showed up the day of almost and said, hey, let's try this, and let's take this out because that costs money. I'm wrapping this video up, I said, right? But it looks like you're getting a little longer. So here's my thinking, and it's odd that this is the way it really might have gone, is that this was over here in place, here and here. And they were building this bridge, and as they built the structure, they said, hey, look, that looks kind of odd, you know. Let's go ahead and strip those forms down. I know we're supposed to keep them in place until we move it over to here. But I have a little doubt, and we all should have doubt, you know. That's okay. I have a little doubt. Let's say it's Denny PATE, the head engineer, and I apologize, Denny PATE, if it wasn't your thought. So this is my thought. You know, this is a hypothetical. So let's go ahead. You know what? Let's strip. Or MCM could have said it, right? Or they saw cracks through the forms. Don't ask me how you see cracks through forms, right? They're solid. So curiosity killed the cat. Let's strip the forms down. And to strip the forms down, they got to remove all the temporary supports and all. So once they're out, they're not going to put them back. So let's strip the forms down, because I want to see what it looks like before we move it over here, because this is a new design. Or maybe FIU said, let's strip those forms and let's see. Or FDOT said, you know what, I know you want to move it over there with the forms in place, but what if we do that and it collapses over here? It's going to be such an embarrassing thing. Let's go ahead and do this in the midnight hour. Let's go ahead and strip this down, and let me see what it looks like at these. Let's see what these look like. And we know that they were stripped down because we see that, I think it's Morales, the BPA guy, says after the form was stripped, cracking was observed. And then you know the reports from there that we have public knowledge of. You see that in my other videos. So they said, hey, everything's copacetic. Somehow they're copacetic. Or maybe they added the post-tensioning to resolve the cracks that we know to be here. Look at number 11, and I think some here, and then number 2, cracks here and here. And those are the, of all things, those are the, as I understand the load paths on this, those are the most concentrated load paths, number 2 and number 11. Showing cracks, showing expansion, showing failure. That is the most major critical thing you would shut down a bridge for, especially unresolved. But we have the stupid, my opinion, stupid BPA coming forward, throwing themselves under the bus by saying, I think it's, we should be monitoring it. What? BPA should never be allowed to monitor a bridge move ever again, for any reason. FDOT, everybody who's tied into FDOT, who saw those notes, and FIU, just, oh my gosh, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen to them. There's no negligence. There's negligence, but nothing's going to happen. So why do we bother? So once people have asked me, what do you think is going to happen? I think they're all going to get paid. They're going to pay the victims off, and that's going to be it. The victim's going to get paid off. This is going to get thrown in the trash. The report's going to come out, and no heads will roll. Nobody's going to jail. Nobody's going to jail. That's the amazing thing, because it was already mentioned that. Could the Federal Highway Department bring somebody to jail? Could the FBI, the DOJ, prosecute? You can reach on that if you want. But as people alluded to, these Democrats aren't going to prosecute Democrats. You're not going to prosecute FIU. That could have the effect of ruining a university. We're not going to do that, are we? you know, even I'm not, it's just not worth it. The energy, please, I don't want to go down on energy. I'm more structural here. As a result of the 174 Longfoot Bridge, fell up 18.5 feet. As we know, I think the top of the bridge is 30 plus feet to the bottom here. 18 feet would probably be the bottom of this deck to here. So we do have an 18 feet of the bottom, 18.5 feet the bottom deck falling that far. The top deck fell, well, the 30 plus feet. It made it to the ground, but then you would minus off, it actually fell to the top surface of here, so you'd have to measure the height from here to the ground, so it fell maybe 28 feet, 25 feet. Yeah, and this didn't fall to the ground at all. You know, you can play with words all you want. To me, this is playing with percentages. This is just, I think this is ridiculous to say that. See, it says see figure 1. So they're referencing the 18 feet fall. They could have referenced it. It did not fall to the ground at all by referencing this point. All right. You know, where are they getting the 18 feet from? You know, structurally, I'm just being nitpicking now. But I also see it as nefarious wordings. I don't like it because it's ambiguous wording also. Okay, 8 vehicles that were stopped below the bridge at the time of the collapse were fully or partially crushed. Okay, that were stopped below. All right, they could have been more. 8 vehicles that were in public. You know, they could have been more damning. 8 people of the public, not 8, just 8 vehicles. Vehicles are now traveling. This is the gun thing. You know, guns kill people. Well, here are 8 vehicles. You know, 8 vehicles. You know, 8 vehicles that were stopped below the bridge at the time of the collapse were fully or partially crushed. 7 of those vehicles were occupied. So it appears that this would be the one that was not occupied, the VSL vehicle, because the VSL worker, I believe, if you look in this image, I believe died of head injury is down here. That's my rough summation or thinking at this point. Remember, I can correct everything later down below as we get more data. 8 vehicles, but as a result of the bridge collapse, 1 bridge worker and 5 vehicles occupants died. 1 bridge worker and 1 collapse. 1 bridge worker and 5 vehicle occupants died. 5 vehicle occupants died. This is just odd wording to me. Maybe I'm letting my amygdala get a little frenzy, but I like to say, you know, 5 members of the public either had nothing to do with this. You know, I'd like to see a little more emotional attachment to the thing, to this NTSB report. But you guys are going to troll me saying, well, it's NTSB. They don't have to be emotional. They're dealing with that. Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. So you can discount my emotion in my reading of this. But they should involve emotions when they document this. 4 bridge workers and 4 other people were injured. So 4 bridge workers. So now we have, but are they MCM? Are they VSL? So we have a total of 5. So we got 1 dead and 4 bridge workers. We got plenty of workers out here, so they're not referring to them, obviously. So that means we had 4 people in here. I thought 5. I thought there were 3 at one point in my videos. So we have 4 workers. So I don't know. We count the engineers as workers now. Somebody trolled me on that, saying, "Well, engineers, you know what? I don't think there was an engineer present during that post-tensioning. I think if there was, they might have reported back that, hey, stop. You know, work on this." You'd be worried about your license, your livelihood, and going to jail, I would think. So you'd be like, well, wait a minute, you know, I'm not performing this next step. I'm not doing it. I'm not post-tensioning this. I'm not tensioning cracks. I'm not going to address cracks by using post-tension. So imagine these cracks are that flex, all right? So I'm going to come back to that. Are the flex. So working on the theory that they were fixing it, that you're trying to close this crack up. This crack, because NTSB is alluding this is the crack. This is in line with the crack. So how is compressing this area, this lower part of the deck, it's in the lower deck, all right, these 2 are. How is it compressing this to this, going to close this crack up? This crack is now so major, so I'm giving and I'm taking away. I'm saying it's really probably not as major as it looks. It's very major because it's showing movement, which needs to be addressed. That's what's very major. This crack is clearly in line with apparently rebar or the post-tensioning in this here. I wouldn't know because I don't know how to do measurements here and everything else based off of the plans and the location of it, the as-builts and the shop drawings. They could definitely determine what these cracks would be indicators of. with that said, if you were trying to close this crack up, and I'm really going to wrap it up, guys, bear with me. So as you were trying to close this crack up, let's say that was your intent. I still say you were trying to close the cracks up in here, and that the reports they must be getting, remember I said in the earlier this video, and only my opinion, that they're like, hey, we can't really tell them the truth. Let's just run that. Let's run with this is what we're working on, and this is, and clearly anybody will be able to defend this in court of law, because we can say that, oh yeah, that would have done nothing. My opinion, I think post-tension, adding tension to this would have done nothing to close this up. I don't see the load path of this crunching, if you will, closing, doing anything to close up this little insignificant part. But I do know that this bottom section weighs more than the top section. That I do know that there's more concrete in here than the concrete in here structurally, meaning there's resistance ability before failure is here, than down to here, than down here. And if you were to just crank this up and had unlimited cranking ability, that I do know that the canopy would fail first. That this load would crush if the post-tension bar had a greater failure point than the concrete failures point. Then that means the canopy would fail first if I had to choose between the concrete and the deck and this embedment, this total embedment of over a foot and 3 foot of concrete. And up here we only have, this significant amount of 1 foot, and I'm going down that road again. Sorry guys, I'm losing my enthusiasm because I went over it so many times. We have the hollow voids of the post-tension bars that aren't inside of the ducts that aren't filled yet with grout. We have the post-tension, longitudinal post-tension cables that are not filled with grout, which has a void ability. That if you were just to crank this up and had unlimited ability trying to close a crack down here, let's call the one that NTSB is saying, that they were trying to do that. I'm saying they were trying to do it. That you're addressing cracks in here only, not where they obviously showed in the other reports that they now, NTSB is not revealing these other cracks in these members here that I revealed in previous videos, that I really think they were trying to close these cracks up. That if you were trying to close this one up, that you would cause failure in this canopy first. So I'm saying that the NTSB is just sending us down a smoke and mirror, stupid trap, that this is somehow politically motivated by NTSB also. Sorry about that, NTSB. I don't see you as neutral. I think you've already made your conclusion on where you don't want to go, because now you're no longer showing the cracks in these members here that were already released by FIU, and they're in my previous videos, that this post-tensioning in these two members would have the effect, if you can close up these cracks, if you can put compression in here, that it might have the effect of closing this. But if you push it too far, you would crush this deck here. That's where I think the mechanism of failure is. Now, they said that they reserve the right to change. I hope they watch my videos, and I hope I hope enough people speak up to go, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying this. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it right now. It's for sale, but no, thank you. My engineering abilities did not fall for that stupidness. All right. As a result, 4 workers and 4 other people, 4 workers and 4 other people were injured. Other people. Who are the other people? They're declaring 4 other people. The pedestrians. They're not saying they're pedestrians. They're not clarifying other people. So they're hiding these other people. Are they engineers? Who are they? Who are they? All right, and that's not a conspiracy thing. That's saying that they're making a declaration, but they're not. But they're being nefarious, I think, with their wording. And I mean the word nefarious. View of collapsed pedestrian, but in my opinion. Okay, there we go. The bridge was to be completed by early 2019, and this is the, now everybody knows this is late 2018. Well, remember they had an addendum. So here's obviously an addendum, 2019. We would love to see the addendum extension. The extension would show why they asked for extension. It would say with the changes. It was built using, and that could be because they widened it by 12 feet, and then they said we need extension 2019. And was built using accelerated bridge construction method. Okay, we know that. A technique intended to minimize disruption of traffic. On March 10, 2018, the walkway diagonals, canopy compromising the bridge. Okay, on March 18, 2018, the walkway diagonals and canopy comprising the bridge. Comprising and canopy comprising the bridge. All right, so you guys can read that. You know, clearly we're getting back to this accidental wording that can mean so many different things. And canopy comprising the bridge, which had been built in a lot adjacent, right here, adjacent to Southwest 8th Street, was moved from the lot using transporters, and you heard me say transporters many times, into position across the roadway, and then lowered onto bridge piers on either side of the roadway. Figures 2. Figures 2 and 2. Let's look for 2 and 2 for a second here. 2 parentheses. So we don't have another 2, do we? No. Okay, 2, 2. And then we got a bracket and 2. Okay. So where's this 2? Okay, period. Okay, figure 2. And then 2. So where's the bracket? Is it up top? Did I miss it? Am I missing some small detail? Okay, here's 1. All right, 1 as a result. So here's the findings. Okay, so 1, that's a major thing. Then we slip to the next point. And number 2, remember I'm doing this live for you guys. Traffic on Southwest 8th Street was detoured during the installation period. And the entire roadway was closed to facilitate movement of the structure. Okay, that's just stupid data. All right, we know that. All right, where's number 3 bracket? Now that I see who's running on these brackets, let me get to number 3. Let me see if there is a number 3, and I'll get back to reading right there. But let me see the 3 bracket. This is how I determine some stuff. I want to see if there's anything. Okay, so we can show that there is no more brackets as I scroll back up. Sorry for the scroll. And I'm going to wrap it up after I get to the bottom of that, but I have to get to the immunity thing. I see my notes. I don't see a 3, so I'm going to say there's no 3, and I might have to retract that as I read down. But there is no 3, so they made two statements here. Moving on. And the entire roadway was closed throughout. We know that. So figure 2, bridge into place. We saw this in videos. They used an image so far away. So let's, you know me, I'm going to call it like I see it. So NTSB used an image so far away that does not show any damage of the nodes. So the NTSB, I think by now, because I tagged them a few times, other people sent them my emails, they took my videos. I'm clearly all over this jackhammering thing and all these nodes. So they used an image that no one can scroll in and grab data off. But then they dropped the ball with their image down below, as already mentioned, that they're pointing to the wrong direction. And I think that's they're trying to be. Okay, I'll move on. On March 10th, per the bridge design plans, construction crews members detentioned the bridge diagonal members on the north-south ends of the bridge. On March 10th. This is wrong. Because per the design plans, there were supposed to be supports in here. And there were this is 100%, I got to write my title now. NTSB false. NTSB, and you guys are getting it before I write. NTSB, something like, I'm going to have to title it, release false information, something of that nature. Okay, guys? I'm just letting you share my thoughts on it. And that's because this is a false statement. And I gotta remember, bridge plans. This is false. And I don't have time to tag it. You guys have to look at my other video because I don't know. I'll put it down below. So let me write down and put down below. So you guys are going to have to look below into the comments and find an image that I'm going to attach on a separate link showing that this is not, because the plans clearly state, and I think I might have said in the beginning of this, the plans clearly state that detentioning was not supposed to take place until the main span structure was complete. The main span is this larger span. It cannot be complete until it's complete, which means the longitudinal post-tension cables must be all installed. All the grouting must be done. And I would say the loads that continue, the 16-inch pipe loads, need to be part of this structure before you can detension it, because that's still not complete until you attach to it. Because why they're not just decorative? Because they're going to help with the vibration, and I'm trying to be, what's that bridge that vibrates? Yeah, you guys can do that. I'm having fun. And when I say I'm having fun, I know you know the bridge down below. It begins with T. Okay, so and so we have we have vibration that has to be addressed, and that was being done by the 16-inch pipes. So NTSB, I'm showing right here, this is just BS. This is a lie. NTSB, again, these are the airplane people that can't follow structural details. This is proof of it. We're so many months into it, the NTSB there, that the engineers they hired obviously are thinking they're talking to the stupid general public here, that somebody like myself is not going to join in. And it's going to work. Obviously it's going to work because they're putting it out here. They're sampling this to see if it's going to work. And this shows that NTSB is not looking out for the public on this one. They're protecting the interests of everybody involved and not us, the public, because this is a false statement. On March 10th, per the bridge design plans. Show it to me. Show me on the NTSB, show me on the design plans, and I'll delete every last video I have. Now, for clarity, these are the plans that FDOT released that are on there, not any plans you might have that aren't released. So I will make a retraction, even though my factual statements, I'll just delete them all. Every last video I have, I will delete. And so therefore, who has sweat in the game in my comments? Because these videos are going to stay out there forever. MCM, everybody that I've attacked, if you will, they all, if they can show me this on those plans, that it says, the plans that released that I have, that I downloaded already, that it says that per the plans, that the design should be, that per the bridge design plans, that the construction crew members' detention of the bridge, that if that was part of the design plans, that means I'm not reading them wrong, I'm reading them wrong, and I'll throw a little sweat in the game, I'll delete every video I have. So I'll make them all private, I won't delete them, I'll make them all private, they'll all become my videos. Okay, so that's my thing, and now that's amazing that they're saying this, because that's not present on the plans. It says, after, this is really triggering me, obviously, guys, on March 10th, per the design plans, construction crew members detention of the bridge, diagonal members on the north and south ends of the bridge. I think they were added, and now, per the design plans. See, so they're clearly not referring to design plans. So this is how I can now, so I get all excited. Now watch how I can save the NTSB on their statement. They can say, well, the design plans are what Denny PATE just wrote up the week before or the night before, and he stamped them. And so these are the design plans we're referring to. No, they're not. So they're being ambiguous on purpose, but we know that as a general public, we would assume, so I gave NTSB their out. But the general public, we would assume they're referring to the design plans of 2017, the ones that FDOT released. Okay, and they clearly state that the form should stay in place and that no detentioning should take place until the main span is complete. And that point, they're supposed to take place, and then, I said that in a previous video, showing the video, and then they're going to detention them, but specifically leave the bars. Do not remove them. Leave them. All right. When the collapse occurred on March 15th, the construction crew, so let me dial myself down. When the collapse occurred on March 15th, the construction crew was positioned on the structure working on retensioning the number 11 diagonal member connecting the canopy and the deck at the north end of the bridge. So the number 11 the number 11 not connecting the canopy and the deck. So they're making it clear that this number 11 connects the canopy and the deck. Right here. It doesn't do anything else. It connects the number 11 in there. That's what it does. Okay, so let's just talk about that, as we move on. North end of the bridge, because a crane was being, and they just jump on, it was positioned on the deck working on retensioning. So here it is. It's not detensioning, retensioning. Retensioning means that it was detention, which is clear up here, and then it's now retensioning. So this is where I show you where we got 3 points of tensioning. We got first tensioning, then we got detensioning, now we got retensioning. This is what's being given. Maybe it was done even more times, as I told you in the previous comments. And if I didn't, that's what I'm saying. The number 11 diagonal member connecting the canopy there. Well, where are you coming with because now? You're starting a sentence with because? Because a crane was being used for this work. 2 of the 3 westbound lanes below the north end of the bridge were closed to traffic. However, the 5 eastbound lanes remaining open in eastbound traffic was not detoured. Okay. So that's just smoke and mirrors sending you off in the wrong direction. But real quickly, they're saying, for people who might say, well, the roads were closed, partially closed. Well, this might be them. Remember, I say things, but I will also defend too. So the NTSB is saying, all right, so it was a partial lane closure, not because of the, this is my summation, not because of the bridge being post-tension or, being worked on. It was because a crane was needed in the roadway. Okay, so that's what that is implying to me. The NTSB is evaluating the bridge design. So the NTSB, the plane people, is evaluating the bridge design, the construction process, and the construction materials. Go back to planes. You guys need a bridge. You need to partner off and get yourself some damn bridge people. We got more bridges. We got more bridges that are collapsing and having issues than planes. So clearly we don't need plane experts, which obviously people are more scared of dropping out of a plane, right? Apparently. We need some bridge experts. So the NTSB needs to cough up the money, the federal government needs to cough up the money and come up with some bridge collapse experts that you're sitting around ready to go dial in. But they can't be FIU, obviously. They can't be anybody with sweat in the game. It's got to be people that actually want to attack and not support. And once they attack, then they need somebody themselves to then support their opposite side and attack their own attack, if you will. All right, it's sort of the stuff I do, right? In addition, the NTSB is evaluating the emergence of cracks in the region of diagonal members 2, which they didn't point out, south end of the bridge. And the region, that's 1. That's not S. As I know it is 2 regions. So you don't say region. You're isolating diagonal number 2 by saying region, meaning it's 1 point. You got to put an S to it or call it diagonal number 2, because as I clearly know, there are multiple ways. But again, this is playing with words, because region, this is region. In the region of diagonal number 2, guess what? This is region. Oh, this is region. This is region. This is region. Oh, down here, this is region. Emergence of cracks in the region of diagonal member 2. This is not specific enough. South end of the bridge. Yeah, south end. I got you. So this would have to be specific. So we'd have to define what part becomes the north end, what part becomes the south end. Is it dividing of the bridge length, or is it dividing of the road? So then you look above the road and you look up. I share this junk with you guys. Hope you appreciate it. So if you're using that as dividing of north and south of this bridge, the road, then you go to the median, divide what's north and south, run up, look at the top of the bridge, and maybe this now becomes the south end. Everything from here down to south. So this means that the diagonal members of member number 2, south end of the bridge. All right, so region could be everything from that center of the road down. Region could be, it's just so ambiguous. And then it says and left, north end of the bridge. So and left, north, come on. That means the entire structure. Just stop playing around. See figure 3. Okay, we're going to jump to see figure 3. It's a comma, see figure 3. So if you're looking off that comment and it's figure 3, well, there's no region identified here at all besides the communication. This is your smoke and mirrors saying in the wrong direction. They're looking at the base of the bridge. The load-bearing part. It's just ridiculous. All right. And the propagation of cracks in the region of diagonal member number 11. Propagation. This is amazing. This word propagation. This could mean so many things. So I'm not even going to troll myself on that. Photographic documentation. They're looking at photographic documentation from February 24th. Watching. Take care. And oh, you know what? Again, I'll do the comments down the bottom. Oh, immunity. Wow, I'm glad I said that. Immunity. The only way they're going to get to the bottom of this, the Office of Inspector General, which I don't think they have the ability to. They just somehow involve somebody, not the NTSB. Don't get an immunity from the NTSB. They have an agenda. Waste of time. We need a prosecuting authority, offer immunity. First come, first serve, one with the most thing. I hate to say it, because I'm being biased. Would Denny PATE be the one you offered immunity to? Yes, if he was to give up his license, since he's the head engineer, he's the one that can tell all what his intent was about this. If your intention, so remember I said I say things that go against me. If your intention, so I think we just need to learn structurally what went wrong here. If your intention is to just get your pound of flesh, we can't learn from it. Mistakes will repeat. If your intent should be to so this won't repeat, so we can learn from it. And so yes, you need to give immunity to Denny PATE with the thing that you'll never do bridge construction again. That Well, you can't give immunity and say we want to kill you for that and get your thing. Now, he needs to protect himself with prosecution, with his people coming after him that died because of a result of this negligence, I think. So, that's going to happen. So I don't know. You should not be able to give immunity against that because you want this data. So they should be allowed to sue. With that said, they should not be allowed to use his information for his immunity. So somehow they have to quickly resolve the lawsuits that he's got to pay up. Maybe all the people already determined what they want, how much money. Then none of them want to go to court and try to go for the $100 million deal if you want. So it's not going to drag out that way. They need to pay out their Denny Pate and Linda Fig, being ultimately responsible also, need to pay this up, offer immunity to Denny Pate, and let the chips fall where they fall, where he attacks the FDOT, that they knew about it. That this is my opinion. I'm not saying that they knew. I'm speaking like it would go down that way. That FIU knew about it. That we were protecting the grant money. We were doing this. Yes, we were under time crunch. All of it will come out. And then they'll see the errors that happen, and they won't let them repeat. So yes, Denny Pate would get immunity. And that would give you the most detailed information because he's the one that all of them answer to, ultimately it appears. MCM, run them over, crush them because of all their structural non-abilities. I don't think they should get immunity at all. Not one bit. They shouldn't be the one. They're not the engineer. We can get all the intent of everybody, all the players, I think, from Denny Pate. Okay. So Denny Pate offered immunity. Maybe I should make that the video. NTSB and title and Denny Pate to get immunity. That'd be a little bit of a clickbait. But that was going to be the smartest move to resolve this. Okay. Thanks, guys. Love you all. Love you all for your comments and what you do there. And I know I get like 10 people that dislike my video. Maybe they all work for MCM because obviously I guys all love.